Can you answer questions when they ask you in interviews like, what is MASH about? What's the meaning?
Well, I can, but it's a lie. I mean, there's too many things. It's about a lot of things.
What if a biologist who lives in remote Alaska has a personal story that, if told correctly, might get the average person to never see themselves, particularly their place in the environment, the same way ever again? And one that might help those suffering with environmental grief cope as best they can.
End of the world as we know it, and also Adam McKay has a new movie called Don't Look Up. Hello everybody, I'm Dan Merle, and this is my review of the new Adam McKay film, Don't Look Up. I reacted most to the slowly simmering frustration of Leonardo DiCaprio's Dr. Randall Mindy. It's the relatable nightmare scenario of knowing you're right and trying desperately to convince someone just to make them listen to you and not being able to do it.
When I was a professor for 20 years, before this new career of producing and managing writers, I always told my storytelling students that if they had a story to tell and they didn't tell it, they were letting down the world, because that's your responsibility.
Well, I'd say this, that the most powerful story a person can ever tell is the one they'll tell with their lives.
But if you just have a nobody, like maybe a me in Alaska who's trying to get a message across, they have a story, and I'll give the example is northern exposure, okay? If a guy lived in Alaska years ago, was a doctor out here, and he went, wow, my life's crazy enough, a movie should be made or a TV show about this. What were the odds of that guy trying to convince somebody in Hollywood, there's an Emmy-winning show here?
I, in my mind, can see this movie, but I have to convince somebody talented, somebody influential, come out here and sit for a week. Half of the story is me trying to find the help to get this huge message out. That makes sense?
To me, that's the story.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it can be.
That would be the amazing movie right there.
Ultimate environmental message that does get the average person.
As if you could weave in these things that are happening in the world, and you being here and trying to get people to come up, and I can envision these scenes of you sitting on this on the riverbank, right?
Half of
it'd be amazing.
I'll tell you a story.
That would be a really good movie.
But as far as log lines, you've got to meld the plot and the theme together in a way that's just emotive.
It's tough, Dave.
And I've been struggling for years with a log line for the effort that I'm trying to do.
Oh man, it may be the single hardest thing in some respects.
Here's part of my problem is this movie that I envision is much like a Robert Altman film. And I don't know if he could have come up with a log line for many of his.
But that right there says to you pretty much everything you need to know about Altman. He's not going to have these kind of clean. He likes that kind of mess, the sort of documentary style reality of people overlapping and stories. So yeah, his is not the easiest thing in the world.
Why am I so keen on Robert Altman? Well, there's several reasons. First, here's what one reviewer said. Altman was an astute observer of humanity and loved the chaotic nature of real life, with its conflicting perspectives, unforeseen twists, unexplained actions, and ambiguous endings. His films had a sloppy imperfection associated with human beings as we are and life as it's lived. But more importantly is what this reviewer said. Altman captured the sheer cacophony of everyday life and the unspoken harmony amidst the apparent chaos of the world. Watching an Altman film is like watching a microcosm of the world flash before your eyes, and for once, the world makes sense. And that's exactly what I'm hoping to do with this film, I envision. But I need help.
Are you sending out this little cartoonish-like thing that says, I really need your help?
I'm hoping to collaborate with somebody on a treatment, because I'm never going to write the book, the script, or the screenplay that this convoluted, seemingly disjointed, informative, and entertaining movie would be based on. But I do contend that something different, drastically different, has got to wake the masses up before it's too late. Here's the plot of the movie. this fish biologist protagonist entices some Hollywood director or producer to visit him in Bush, Alaska, where they spend a week sitting around the campfire, and the biologist flashes back to many of his life experiences, some sad.
Was your depression suicidal?
No,
Okay, well mine was. And when you meet me, you'll see the scars. Do you know what I held on to? The chance to get to do this work, to get to help to tell this story. This work saved me already.
Some humorous. The first time I saw him in Antioch, so he was wearing a kilt.
He was wearing what?
A kilt in Antioch. Some very traumatic. If you know anything about the spotted owl issue,
yeah, right.
The salmon issue was much bigger,
right.
and it affected everybody. And they did not like biologists trying to save the salmon. Again,
right.
Death threats other biologists were getting. And 3 of the worst years of my life.
Sounds horrible.
And you want to talk about depression.
Right.
I was a basket case, literally.
I wouldn't have been able to deal with it.
Well, I do believe.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get emotional.
Yeah.
That what I went through.
Yeah.
Many people couldn't.
Yeah.
But I came out a better person.
Well, of course you did.
For it.
Yeah, you did.
And that knowledge of the environment.
Right.
And what it's up against.
Well, you.
And during this time, bald eagles soar overhead, salmon are constantly streaming by, and brown bears are wandering the shoreline in search of their next meal. And they also discuss, though, current issues environment-wise, climate change, ocean acidification, loss of biological diversity. But they also talk about more contemporary issues. Definitely the politics and yes, the Trumpism bullshit.
All of this with the global warming and that, a lot of it's a hoax. It's a hoax. I mean, it's a money-making industry, okay?
Incredible. I was watching the firemen the other day, and they were raking areas. That should have been all raked out.
What about the argument?
You wouldn't have the fire.
What about the argument it's climate change, that it's drier, it's hotter, and that's contributing to it?
Maybe it contributes a little bit. The big problem we have is management.
The most important thing that this protagonist and producer/director are going to talk about are the cognitive impairments that impede the protagonist's ability to convey his message, and why those impairments actually, although a hindrance, provide him some unique insights as to the causes of many of mankind's inherent problems. One of those cognitive impairments that our protagonist has is attention deficit disorder. And how does that fit in to this story? Well, this book here by Tom Hartman, titled Attention Deficit Disorder, A Different Perception, I believe, explains it very well. Here's what he concludes with. This may seem far afield of a discussion with ADD and its causes, but no one can travel in the world today with open eyes and fail to see an ongoing escalation of social and ecological destruction. Drastic solutions are called for. We need to change our way of living or perish. Historically, necessary transformational changes in our culture have been brought about by misfits, malcontents, and dropouts, people like Thomas Edison and Benjamin Franklin. Perhaps some of our young hunters, people with ADD, who we view as having difficulty in school and with adjustment to our society, will be the ones to show us new ways into a new future. And I hope to maybe do that with this movie effort of mine. What is it that drives our protagonist biologist to make a difference, to maybe save the world? Well, there's 3 things. One is the state of the world right now, particularly the environment. If mankind doesn't mend our ways very quickly, we're all in trouble. Secondly is that his ADD, and you're going to see in this clip exactly why that is.
Which includes college and taking the normal job, And some of these folks just can't take that path. They need an alternative path, and there aren't any good ones. So at this point, we knew we were onto something, and we put up a website with messaging to gauge interest in our idea. And as we started getting applications, we were blown away by the number. We got them from all over the world, and the message. The common theme amongst all these people that were reaching out to us is they wanted to change the world, but nobody was listening. It was almost eerie, the number of applications. It was like they were copying each other. It was a surreal experience. So for us, it was at this point that Tom and I knew we weren't just starting a company. We were actually going to try to change the world.
But thirdly, early on in our biologist career, in part because of that ADD, he had a supervisor tormentor who set him up to fail every chance the tormentor could. And he basically psychologically abused the biologist for 6 years. And that set our biologist up for a decade or more of angst, anxiety, and depression. So if there's a story arc here, it's going to be that this biologist, who was told early on in his career he wasn't professional material, ultimately makes a bigger difference getting an environmental message out than Rachel Carson did with Silent Spring. Like I said earlier, half of this film is actually about the protagonist trying to find help to bring his vision for a game-changing, environmentally minded movie to fruition. Now here you're going to hear just a few of my failed efforts to find the help I've been looking for years.
What is the logline?
Well, it started out with an unknown, unassuming biologist living in the middle of nowhere trying to make a huge difference. And about his failed attempts, I could get it real quick and read it.
I want to hear your passion. I want to hear your... I don't want to... I want to hear you.
Well, it's this biologist.
Essentially, you're telling me that you're the main character?
Well, my life is. Now, I know that sounds pretty hubristic for people to say, Dave, you think a movie can be made about your life? Well, it's not me, per se. It's the environment story. And this biologist...
What specifically? I don't know what a treatment is. I don't know. I don't know any professional writers who do that.
Everyone in the business uses treatments.
You either write the script or you go around town pitching the idea, and people, treatment for me, in my experience, it's an indication that you need a stronger idea or you need to just go all in and write the script.
Well, I mean, I'm a realist. As much as I'm an idealist, that will never happen with Dave Cannon.
By writing your own screenplay is an extreme long shot. It's very, very difficult to do unless you have devoted your life to writing screenplays.
To write a freaking script, my God, I couldn't imagine anything harder in life.
That sounds like something worth doing, then.
Oh, man. All right, well, I'm going to let you get to your girlfriend, and I got to think here.
I do appreciate it. All right, brother. Thank you so much for getting a hold of me.
I appreciate your time.
You have a breakthrough, and you want to, I'm easy to find.
All right. Thank you, Nicholas.
Bye, brother.
You have a good one.
Yeah, you too, man.
Bye-bye. Oh, my freaking God. Ain't getting any fucking closer. Son of a bitch.
So, yeah, nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice meeting you, too.
So, you're the fish guy, huh?
Well, nicknamed by my friends the Don Quixote of fish biologists.
And are you really in Arkansas?
Alaska.
Or Arizona?
Alaska.
Huh?
Alaska.
Oh, Alaska.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. The other AK.
Yeah, right.
Your friend, who I think is wrong, I think it almost has to be about you, because what makes people watch movies as opposed to documentaries is, documentaries are for intellectuals and for people who want to learn.
Here's my firm belief, and you might disagree with me, but a documentary isn't going to cut it. It has to be something mainstream.
It's not your call.
Well,
Keep
maybe
it on
it
getting
is.
the
No,
message
it isn't.
Whatever
It's not
form
your
it
call.
takes, it's
Feature films are for people who want to be entertained and who want to see dramatic circumstances in which some heroic person, crackpot or not, is up against huge odds. And at the end, accomplishes something. Right. And so you have to have a character there.
A big part of this story is depression, okay? Now, it would take me a while to explain the depression that I experienced when I was in Idaho trying to save those salmon down there in the Pacific Northwest. There were death threats. Part of the story would be that this biologist who had immense depression, ultimately worked through it, and is now going to be able to help people who are only going to experience severe depression from the onset of climate change. And there's a term called solastalgia. And what that is that...
What's the word?
Solastalgia.
Solastalgia.
Yeah. Did you get a chance to read that last email I sent with an attachment?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Let me review the material, and I will get back to you with suggested plan. And I certainly will introduce you to people I run across. I have a lot of like-minded people in my circles here.
Now, I spent $300 to talk to Dr. Atchity for 1 hour, and as noted, he didn't even read any of my materials, a draft treatment, prior to our discussion. And he never did get back to me. And then I went all the way back to New York City in the hopes of talking to Garrison Keillor, which I did. And he mentioned my name in his show along with Donald Trump in the same sentence. But this effort went nowhere.
We were lucky to have lived when we did.
Well, all right. Well, thank you. I'm going to let you get back and look forward to the show.
I don't think I'm going to be talking about this tonight during the show.
Thank you very much. That's all right. Maybe another show when you come to Bethel. And we'll feed you some king salmon from the Kuskokwim River.
I just want to be funny, David.
Now, this is a conversation I had back in 2007 with Patch Adams, hoping eventually to get in touch with Tom Shadyac.
I made a promise when I got in that world that I would never be a conduit. So, I met and know a lot of people.
Yeah.
Never give any phone numbers or addresses or...
Right. Appreciate your call. You made my day.
You have a wonderful day, Dave.
Thank you.
Working for that nature. It's the only hope we have for a future.
I'm going to close out with a Carl Jung quote that's very germane to my efforts to try and get this movie made, as well as the protagonists throughout the movie. As an adult, I felt myself to be alone, and I am still, because I know things and must hint at things which others apparently know nothing of, and for the most part don't want to know. Loneliness doesn't come from having no people about one, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to oneself, or from holding certain views which others find inadmissible. And I hope to find someone with a little altruistic bent who's willing to help me craft a killer treatment that just might pique the interest of someone in the film industry.